Firefly guitars are just as good as Fender Custom Shop. Hey everybody, Jace Allen here. Welcome back to the channel. So I know what you're thinking, Jace, you're absolutely out of your mind. There's no way that a Firefly guitar can be as good as Fender Custom Shop. But hear me out on this. So I've done several videos on budget versus expensive guitars, and I talk quite often about how expensive guitars can sometimes be a waste of money depending on your needs as a guitar player. If you're a home, studio, bedroom player, then maybe a custom shop or a really expensive guitar is kind of a waste of money to you because it's more guitar than you really need. That said, there are some budget guitars out there that really do perform as well as more expensive guitars and then sometimes exceed the expensive guitars. The whole adage that you get what you pay for is really just nonsense anymore because most guitars are made by machines. The machines can do a way better job of creating the body and the neck and all that stuff than a person can. And so the amount of human labor involved where things could go wrong is greatly reduced. And so what you end up with is budget guitars that are very good in quality compared to their more expensive counterparts. So I like to think of guitars falling along a spectrum. And so there is a guitar buying spectrum from very cheap guitars from say $100 on down, and then budget guitars from say the $100 to $500 range, and then mid-tier guitars from the $500 to $2,000 range. I often refer to those guitars as expensive guitars, but a lot of that is very relative depending on your ability to buy a guitar and your income level. And so a lot of people have commented that, you know, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 is not expensive for a guitar. So then you have $2,000 on up, which I consider expensive guitars. Now, the usual thinking about it goes something like this, that the cheaper you go in price, the lower the quality. The higher you go in price, the higher quality. But I like to think of it as the cheaper you get, you have poorer quality control because the guitars are made faster. And that means that they can be inconsistent and that there's little to no setup. And setup is a huge factor in whether a guitar is, you know, easy to play and perceived as higher quality than another guitar. You can take a cheap budget guitar, do an expert setup on it, and it can play just as good as a more expensive guitar. And then as you get towards the more expensive brands, then you have excellent quality control. They're made slower, maybe more hands on them, more time for someone to, you know, notice problems, issues. The guitars become more consistent and they have a pro level setup so that when you pull it out of the box of the case, it's going to play really well. But that said, I think that there is sort of an overlap when it comes to these two concepts because the guitars are largely made by machines. That takes a lot of the inconsistencies out of the equation, and you can make better guitars faster with a machine than you can with a person. So what I like to say is that between the budget and mid-tier guitars is sort of where the quality control, the inconsistency, made faster or slower, little to no setup to pro setup kind of overlaps. It kind of blends in. You can have budget guitars that are set up really poorly, they have poor quality control, and they're not that good. And you can have expensive guitars, mid-tier to expensive guitars that are also not that good, that have poor quality control, are inconsistent, and may have little to no setup. And then the inverse of that is you can have budget guitars that have excellent quality control and that they're very consistently made and that they have very good setup And of course, we expect expensive and probably mid-tier guitars as well to have excellent quality control and to be consistent and to have a pro setup. So throughout my comments on some of my latest videos where I talk about budget guitars and also trying to sort of save people from that trap that some of us fall into, where we think that in order to sound better, in order to advance our skills and to be pro, we need expensive equipment. So on those videos, I got a lot of comments about custom shop guitars. I can't believe how many comments there were about custom shop, about how custom shop guitars are the holy grail and that you will immediately feel and hear the difference between a custom shop guitar and that custom shop guitars just overshadow every other guitar out there. So I decided to take the bait. I fell for it hook, line, and sinker, and I went out and bought a custom shop guitar. Okay, here it is. This is a Fender Telecaster Custom Shop. This is a 1952 Telecaster Chicago Special New Old Stock Super Faded Natural Blonde. Actually, I'm not sure if this is the Super Faded one. They do have a Super Faded listed on their website, but it's sold out. This is from 2022, so it may be a model that was discontinued, but it could be the Super Faded. So anyway, let's talk about the specs on this guitar real quick. Features Chicago Special Tele pickups, and these are potted in shellac for open wide range frequency response, 43 gauge enamel wire. The neck pickup is an Alnico 5 magnet overwound with 43 gauge enamel wire. Gives high output clarity and punch. The bridge pickup, wide diameter Alnico 3 magnets combined with thinner 43 gauge enamel wire equals hot juicy tone. New Old Stock is built without any relic or wear at all for vintage inspired instruments. It feels as if you went back in time and bought it new in the golden era. Most are finished with nitrocellulose lacquer. In those instances, you should expect the finish to age similarly to their vintage counterparts. However, some modern era custom shop creations in New Old Stock are finished in polyurethane. This one has been finished in nitro. So let's talk about the guitar itself. Single piece of ash, single piece maple neck, completely lacquered in nitrocellulose. A little bit of gunk on the edges of the frets. There's a little bit of glue on this fret here. And let's see, skunk stripe, which I believe is walnut, could be rosewood. And then the old-timey tuners there, and then an old school Fender logo, water slide decal. And if you notice, all the screws in this guitar are the straight head screws, not the Phillips screws. String through the body, semi-transparent finish, just your standard strap buttons, the sort of ashtray style bridge, and the 3 saddle bridge with just the sort of the round brass barrels. The pick guard is a single piece of acrylic, and I believe it's been clear coated with the lacquer. And it features the 5 screws, and then you've got your neck pickup, which is actually bolt screwed to the body itself. And you've got full-size CTS pots. I believe this is a Switchcraft 3-way switch. You got the old style fabric wiring. And let's see, what else can we say? Just the black dots for the inlays and a little bit of yellow tint on the neck. 25.5-inch scale length, 9.5-inch fretboard radius, 1.65 or 42 millimeter nut. It's a bone nut. It says rift sawn neck, which is kind of interesting because you would think that a very expensive custom shop guitar would have a quarter sawn neck, but it doesn't. It has a rift sawn. And then again, these are the hand wound Chicago Special pickups, and it says modified 51 no caster wiring, and then you get the recessed old school jack cup and a single disc shaped string tree. And it weighs in just under 7.5 pounds. Comes with a velvet lined tweed case and case candy. This guitar retails for $4,150. I got it used off of Reverb for less than $3,000. So the first thing I want to point out is many people always comment in the comments that expensive guitars like this hold their value, that people buy them thinking that if they need to sell them later, that they'll sell them and they'll make some money on it, that that they hold their value and in some cases increase in value. So here you have a $4,150 guitar that's mint condition. Basically, it looks like whoever bought it took it out of the case, played it a couple times. There's a few light scratches on the pick guard, and then put it back in the case and didn't do anything with it, and then listed it on Reverb, and then I bought it for less than $3,000, and that is with shipping and tax. So much for this guitar holding its value. So let's compare it to, say, this Firefly guitar. I talk about the Firefly guitars quite a bit because I think they're pretty good guitars, and a lot of people just like to jump into the comments and talk about how I'm wrong, that the Firefly is garbage. It's cheap Chinese firewood, they say. So let's talk about this guitar. This guitar has a flame maple neck, and of course when I mentioned that in one of my short videos, somebody was quick to point out that, oh, it can't be flame maple. It's got to be a decal, or it's got to be, burned in to the finish somehow, or it's a veneer. Well, it's not. It's an actual flame maple neck. I don't know how to prove it to people in a video other than like damaging it, which I don't really want to do because I like this guitar and I probably plan on keeping it. So anyway, all I can say is it's flame maple. I know what flame maple looks like. It's flame maple. People will argue with me, but it is what it is. Rosewood fretboard, abalone inlays, stainless steel ball end frets, which are perfect. They're immaculate. Either a bone nut or a tusk nut. I think it's a tusk nut. And then modern locking tuners, a couple of cheap bent string trees, bent steel string trees. And then you get an adjustable truss rod. Oh, and that's another thing. The truss rod adjustment on the Custom Shop, because it's basically a replica of a 1952 Telecaster, is down here, but it's under the pick guard, and it's basically a giant Phillips head that you adjust with, I don't know what, a screwdriver, I guess. Luckily, that guitar, it doesn't, most guitars I've bought don't ever need a, truss rod adjustment, so I'm not too concerned there. But this one has the nice sort of wheel truss rod adjustment down here in the heel, and this features a single coil. These are Alnico pickups. I'm not sure what type of magnet is in each of them. This has the 3 saddles, the same as the Custom Shop, same type of bridge, bent steel bridge, but this has the brass compensated saddles, which is supposed to help intonation. And then this has a mechanical 3-way switch on it, full-size pots, the domed knurled knobs on that have the little set screw in them, which I like better. These are just sort of, they have a plastic sort of bushing inside, and then they just sort of slide over, but I don't know. It seems like after some time that could wear out. Just regular control plate, more modern style strap buttons, same old metal plate on the back, but then this one has a nice body contours in it, a real nice sloped heel contour here, so you got a really nice handshake when you're down there on those higher frets, and then the arm contour, string through the body, and then a more modern screwed in type jack. Paint job is excellent on this. Supposedly a roasted mahogany body. As soon as you say mahogany, people will complain. Oh, it's not real mahogany. It's whatever wood they call mahogany, so it's natto or whatever. I don't care. It's a great, it's a great guitar. It sounds good, which we'll get to in a minute. And this one weighs in at just over 7.5 pounds. And then finally, the Firefly guitars do not include a case or a gig bag of any kind. And these guitars typically retail on the Guitars Garden website for around $229, sometimes $269. And then they will mark them down if they've sat for a while. This one I got for $199 plus shipping and tax. So if you just compare the two guitars by spec, the Firefly wins every single time because it features specs that more expensive guitars have. The roasted flame maple neck. To get a Fender guitar with a roasted flame maple neck is going to cost you some money. You're getting into custom shop territory. Same with the roasted mahogany body. So as far as parts go and components go, people will argue about the components in a cheap guitar being no good, that the tuners won't hold tune, and that, you know, that everything will wear out, that it's not going to last. So it seems like every time you bring up something about one of these guitars, they'll always shoot down, you know, by saying that, well, this, well, that, you know, whatever. But this guitar is very well made. It sounds really good. You know, I haven't owned it that long to know if the parts, how long they last. I've got a Stratocaster, Firefly Stratocaster over here that I've had for a couple years. And that, you know, the components on that, nothing's corroding. I mean, it's the humidity is set to a proper level down here. Sometimes it gets up a little high in the wet months, but nothing corrodes. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. So why do I think that a Firefly guitar is just as good as a Fender Custom Shop? Well, it can be. Obviously, the Fender Custom Shop Telecaster is, you know, Fender's own replica of their own guitar. It's designed to be a 52 Telecaster, one of the, you know, the original Telecasters. It even comes with the cover for the bridge. So as I said in some of the other videos, you know, Fender, Gibson, they're all selling nostalgia. They're selling a lifestyle, an image, and a brand name. And this is a very good example of them selling nostalgia. This is an exact replica of a 1952 Fender Telecaster. So when you pay $4,000 for a guitar like this, it's a little underwhelming because the Telecaster is probably one of the most simple guitars ever made. And so when you get it and pull it out of the case, you're like, is that it? You know, so, you know, it's kind of hard to compare these two guitars because one is made to mimic an older style guitar, and one has some of the more modern features that, you know, current guitar models have. But as far as, you know, build quality and all that, the Firefly is very good. You got a little bit thinner neck on it than you do with the Custom Shop. So people like to talk about, you know, oh, the Custom Shop plays so much better and it sounds so much better, and you can tell right off the bat. Well, it's really hard to tell the difference between these two guitars, other than, like I said, the Firefly has a little bit thinner neck because they're made so well. When you pick up a guitar like, say, the Donner, which is a great guitar, but you pick it up and you hold it and you play it, and you kind of can tell that it's not an expensive guitar, that it just, there's something about the neck, there's something about the feel of the neck that feels like, I don't know if it's because it's thinner, you know, pretty thin. I mean, these are full thickness bodies. This is a basswood or poplar body, so it's pretty lightweight. This has got really nice tuners and everything on it. I mean, it sounds good. I replaced the pickups in it just as a experiment. And the fretwork and everything on it is good, so don't get me wrong, it's a great guitar, but there's just something about it that feels, you know, feels like a budget guitar. I'm not saying it feels cheap, like, you know, it's very playable. It's a nice guitar. I actually like playing that one. But when you pick up the Firefly, it's got a feeling to it. It's got that feeling that people talk about when it comes to higher end guitars. And so you can find budget guitars that are really, really good. So when you compare it to something that is 18 times the cost of the Firefly, it really kind of brings things into perspective. Because, you know, when you sit down with this, when I was pretty surprised when I sat down with that custom shop guitar, that it didn't, there's, you know, you would expect a $4,000 guitar to really wow you, to be exceptional, to, you know, to just feel different, because that's what everybody says in the comments, that it just feels different. You can just pick it up right away and know that it's a higher quality instrument. And I'm just not seeing it, and I know I'm going to take a lot of criticism for that, but it is what it is, and I stand behind that, and I just don't see that, you know. I think that custom shop guitars are beautiful. They're well made. You can get some really cool, you know, relic looking guitars. I think that's a huge feature of the custom shop guitars. You can obviously have a guitar made to your specs. They're built in the United States, so the labor costs are going to be high. They're built by a master builder, so their quality should be good, although there's a couple things on this. This even has some cracks in the neck joint already. But like I said, this was a used guitar, so who knows how the person that I got it from handled it. So, you know, it's clear where the cost is going. Plus, it's a Fender. So you're definitely paying for the name, and you're definitely paying for the nostalgia of this guitar, because it's a replica. It's a complete, you know, copy of, you know, it's Fender copying themselves. So it's like the budget. It's funny because the budget brands take a lot of criticism for copying Fender, Gibson, and all that other stuff, and yet Gibson and Fender copy themselves all the time. I mean, granted, they are their designs, you know, but I mean, to a large degree, modern guitars are copies of, you know, the guitars that came out, you know, 60 years ago. But where the rubber really hits the road is how they sound. So let's compare these two guitars and see how they sound. So there you go. Clearly some different tones coming out of each guitar, obviously, because the pickups are wired differently on each guitar. The Fender Custom Shop has more of a vintage set of pickups in it, so it's going to sound different than the Firefly that has probably a more modern style of pickup in it. I think they both sound good. They both play exceptionally well. There are some minor differences between the two. I will say Fender knows how to make guitar necks. They really do. Fender necks are really, really comfortable and easy to play on. The Firefly is really, really good too. That's the one thing about budget guitars. They tend to be generic. They try to ride a middle line between, you know, like the C shape neck. They sort of go with a modern C shape, and they go with sort of a middle of the road flat neck. They go with middle of the road height frets. So everything is kind of designed to be sort of in the middle of everything so that it sort of appeals to a wider range of people. Obviously, when you get a custom shop guitar, you can get more specific to sort of a style. Obviously, this Fender Custom Shop is a vintage style, which I personally like. But I do like the Firefly guitar simply because of the looks. For the price that you pay for the Firefly guitar, you shouldn't get a guitar that looks and plays and sounds as good as it does. But that's where we're at. That's where we're at with budget gear. It sounds really good. It plays really well. It's made really well. You do get lemons sometimes, the same as you would with any guitar brand. So why do I say that the Firefly is just as good as a Fender Custom Shop? Because it can be. It can be. If you prefer the way the Firefly plays and sounds over a custom shop, then to you, it's better. It's a better deal, especially because of the price. It's a budget guitar. It's, you know, I got this thing for around $200. You know, Fender can't touch that. Even with their Squire, a $200 Squire is going to be a lot less, you're going to have a lot fewer features. It's not going to be spec-wise, it's not going to be as good as the Firefly because they're trying to make profit. I mean, they're a company that is in the business of making guitars for profit. I'm not saying that the Chinese companies aren't trying to make a profit either, but you know, they have less overhead, they have less marketing, so there's a lot less that they need to pay for. So there's a lot fewer costs outside of the guitar itself that you're paying for when you buy the budget brands. Anyway, as always, I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and we'll be getting some more guitars here coming soon. We got another Donner Hush guitar. This is the Pro version. I've got that strange aluminum metal looking headless guitar from Australia coming that I'm going to be doing a review on. And then I've got the Vailton GP5 pedal that is similar to the Tone X1 coming. I actually got it from the UK and had it shipped over and took a royal beating on the tariffs. So that should be here pretty soon. So we're going to mess around with that pedal as well. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.